What's going on, ladies and gents? Welcome to the Tangents Podcast. My name is Dalibor from T3G, and today we're doing another episode of Passion as a Business. This is our new segment on the Tangents Podcast. This is for those watching and listening in the future. I am joined by Matt Glass from HCT Media. How you doing, sir? I'm doing all right. You know, we got some technical difficulties, starting about 20 minutes late, but that's what production is, right? Right, for sure, for sure. So while for those who are listening in the future, we are broadcasting this live, and we're going to have some audience interaction once we get some audience in the room. But we are going to start off with just some basic questions. You do a lot of different stuff. I can't like, just like when I was talking to Jordan, I can't categorize you as like, you're not a sound guy, you're not a music guy, you're everything. You do so many things. How did you get started in production? Son of a bitch. I did it again. Well, here is another video where there is a bunch of audio missing. However, because there's only me talking in reaction, we're going to just cut this down until I realize what happened. No, I. Oh, wow. Go ahead and say something.
Hello?
Well, this is going to be interesting to edit because I don't know that I have any of what just happened on audio.
Weird.
And I don't. Yeah, no, there's really no recovering that one. That's it's live. Oh well, we'll see what happens.
You know what? Nobody cares about that.
I'll be honest, I haven't seen the Fallujah documentary, but how did that come about? Like, how do you decide to make?
Oh yeah, that was probably your initial question. I totally didn't answer that.
Was that the first one? Was that the first documentary?
That was our first hour-long feature-length one from 2 years ago. That's the one that we won the Emmy for.
Okay, and then did you guys leave the country for that?
No, so it's a documentary about soldiers who fought in Fallujah.
Gotcha.
Making an opera about their experiences, or one specific soldier, and then these two other soldiers who made some artwork for it, and they're all dealing with PTSD. So it was all local.
Gotcha.
And it was commissioned by a local television station, KCET, and they commissioned it. And initially, it was supposed to be about the opera and about this one soldier who the opera was based on.
Okay.
But he was fine. He just wasn't that charismatic. And we met this other soldier who was doing some artwork in the background, and he was going to be an ancillary character. But he was just so interesting. We had a 6-hour conversation with him the first day, and we were like, we have to make it about this guy. So they were nice enough. Well, I think Jordan had to do some battles, but to skew it more towards him and a little less about the opera, which it was way better for.
Right. So you said they commissioned it. I mean, what?
So it's a PBS station. I think they get grants. So I think when they found out the opera was happening, they applied for a grant. We want to make a documentary about this opera. So I don't know where the money comes from. So they gave them money specifically for that. That documentary we just did, the Art and Nature one, they commissioned a documentary about the history of artists in California and how that relates to nature in California. So that was their pitch to get the money. They got the money. They're like, okay, what can you guys do with this? And then we dealt with them and went back and forth on some stuff. And then
Gotcha. So is that something that, I guess, how do you get to that? Is that something that you seek out? Is that something that it's like a job posting and you just happen to catch it?
That was a weird one. So we made our Half Cut Tea documentary, mini documentaries, and we had an unrelated meeting at KCT with someone we were filming something with, and we met the lead of KCT, and he asked us what we do, and so we showed him some of our documentaries, the little 7-minute ones, and he said, we have a TV show where we use 7-minute long documentaries about artists. Can we license some of these? So that's how we got in contact with them, and they licensed our entire hour-long documentary, and we were like, yeah. So it's just a slow build of a relationship. And I guess in between there, they asked us to do some 7-minute long original content for them for a new TV series they did. And they saw that we were able to pull that off, and that's when the hour-long things came along.
Gotcha. Well, that's really cool, man. That's I think it's always interesting to think of like how you go from like passion projects and doing stuff because it's cool and because you want to do it to getting paid. I think that's a big part. I mean, I think that's a huge part of the journey, of course. You know,
and the only problem with getting paid is that you give up the right. I mean, we still fight for a lot of stuff, but like suddenly there's another voice in there, and you're like, oh no, there's someone else we have to listen to.
Right.
You always have to do what they say, but you have to listen to a lot of
it. Right. And I think that's kind of a popular. I don't want to say popular, but that's kind of like a understandable thing in the real world, not the real world, the outside world, outside of Hollywood and outside of filmmaking, because I think we've seen a lot of results of other voices getting involved. I think I always go back to Faint Four Stick, my most hated and most angry.
I never saw that.
I think if for morbid curiosity, you should, and just to see.
You said Fantastic Four, right?
Yeah.
Oh, is that the new one? The Justin, whatever.
And it's funny, you can see like where the disconnect is because they literally go to a black screen and it says 1 year later, and I was like, "This is
Full Throttle loves it."
I was like, "This is where it just goes down." He's saying no. He's saying don't see it. He's saying don't see it. It's terrible.
Sure.
But I think if you want to see it for morbid curiosity, yeah, it's bad. But Full Throttle. Here's the question: Is it as bad as Birdemic?
It seems like Birdemic might have known that they were making a little bit of a joke film. I assume because they called it Birdemic. Hopefully, and it seems like.
Possible.
Whatever the movie's called, Fantastic Four, they were trying really hard to make it deep, and it seems like it backfired completely.
They had so many things that were just conflicting, and like hardcore conflicting, super hardcore conflicting. Just on like a surface level, Johnny Storm is and has always been written as like a daredevil, free spirit kind of guy, and he in the beginning he like crashes this car and his dad has to get him out of jail, like he's that guy, like reckless.
Mm-hmm.
They end up in this whatever parallel world or whatever, and he shows a fear of heights, and I was like, huh. You like drove a car literally until the engine exploded and went to jail for it, but heights, huh? Just
like we have to make him human.
And then like when they did the 1 year later, suddenly he was like best friends with the government and we're going to help them. We're going to work with the government. And I'm like, you were like flipping off cops at the beginning of the movie. I just don't see where is the pivot, sir? Where's the pivot?
Yeah. You skipped the part of the movie that was the actual movie.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened. It was like the way things were written and the way things are done is just ridiculous. You have these like, here is this plot thread, and you're like, interesting. Oh, there's nothing else. And that's like, there's something to be said about mystery, about kind of like, hey, how does this work? How does this happen? Like, for instance, I'm not going to ruin. I don't want to spoiler the Rain film. It's not a long film. You should see it. But at the beginning, he's walking through the streets, and there are some dead bodies. And it's not like a couple. There's a lot of dead bodies. And you're like, what is this with the dead bodies? Like, what exactly is happening here? And you know what? That gets resolved.
If only they told you why there were dead bodies in the title of the film. Oh, wait. They do. That was my favorite. I loved, like, naming movies is my favorite part of making movies. Like, the title Rain is so, like, yeah. Because it doesn't make any sense until you kind of get what it is at the end of the movie.
Yeah,
like,
nice. It's dark.
Yeah.
It's real dark.
I love plotting that movie out specifically. And that kind of stuff. I love, like, the little plot threads that, like, you're like, this doesn't mean anything. And then by the end, every single little thing means something that all like fits together.
Yeah.
When you can make that work, it's like amazing. When it doesn't work, it's not that great. But when it does, it's
Right.
fun.
Right. I've been writing a novel for 10 years, easily. It's been going very slowly because every year I say I'm going to do it for NaNoWriMo. I don't know if you know what that is.
Yeah, the 1 month
Yeah,
thingy.
every year I say I'm going to do it for NaNoWriMo. I do like 3 days, and I'm like, hey man, I'm on good pace, and then like life happens, and I don't have an hour and a half hour and a half to 3 hours to knock out 1,200 words in a day. And then it's like, oh, I'll make it up tomorrow, and then it's by the end of the week you got to make up 12,000 words, and you're just like,
Forget this.
it's not going to happen. Not this month.
Yep. Yeah, I never thought. I mean, this isn't comparable at all to writing a book, but I never thought I could write a feature-length movie. And then when I finally did that, I was like, oh, okay, that's not that bad. Maybe I could write a book.
So here's
like a good step.
On that level. I think if you've done script writing, I think screenwriting, I think you can absolutely do a book, because I think you just get to do all the stuff. And I guess this is where my question is going to come in. In a script, in a screenplay, are you breaking down step by step, like, hey, this is what the action, direction, dialogue, all in kind of one shot? Or is it flowing more like, this is what I want this scene to be, here's the dialogue, and then like you make up the back half of it, like the actual like go this way, the direction, the stage direction during the shoot?
Let me think here. Well, it depends, I guess. So initially, I board out everything, like super in-depth boards. Like these plot boards are really crazy, and they're fun to look at. But script writing, like I wrote this movie called The Quiet Girl, and it's pretty silent movie. There's some dialogue in it, but it's not super dialogue heavy. And so I wanted it when people to read it, for it to last as long as the movie lasted. And so I wrote so incredibly in depth, like that it takes you like an hour and a half to read the whole script. So like it's so much description, it's so much like prose, and like it's written like a shorts, or like I guess a regular story. But that's not how everybody writes. Sometimes it's just like guy jumps in car, runs away, person does that, and they let the director or whoever's doing it fill in the gaps. But I figured like since I was planning on directing it, it became like a notebook for me of like writing it in a way where I knew exactly everything that I wanted. And I think in the writing process, you as a writer kind of are imagining where everything goes.
Right.
But on Squirrel, which we shot last October, there's a lot of times where like the way I imagined it when I wrote it, like the action, we get on set and then the actors would like plot, what's it called? Not plot it out. What's it called when you do
storyboard?
No, like where they figure out where they're stepping. It's such a, I can't
Marks?
forget that. Something. Anyway, and they figure out where they're going to walk around and stuff.
You're the professional, sir. I am an amateur at best.
Where the actors stand. What is that called?
Marks. Take your marks, right?
Yeah, the marks are where they stand, but like the process of getting. Anyway, it's not important. I'm a fraud. But they'll do it in such a way. They do it so much better than like I had it imagined in my mind, or completely different than it was imagined in my mind. And then suddenly you have to change camera angles and change lighting to fit that as well. So you never know, like you can have it all made up in your head, but once you get on set, if something better comes up, it's always like,
sure,
it's great. It's like,
sure,
blocking. See, I'm real.
I can Google the answers as fast as anyone else.
Still got it.
That's fantastic. This is going to be a very interesting podcast. I'm very curious. I'd love some comments in the future about how this sounds, because
is my sound really bad?
No. I think we lost like the first half.
Oh, that was the boring half.
Because of my headset, it just.
Oh yeah, you were.
I'll have to do an intro. I'll have to do an intro and talk about. Be like, listen. Speaking Matt says it was the boring half.
Do you listen to like any other podcast, like interview podcasts, like WTF or anything like that?
No, not interview. I mean, I listen to a fiction interview podcast. I listen to.
Oh, nice. Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Hello from the Magic Tavern. I just started listening to a podcast from. I'm hesitant to call him an upcoming filmmaker because he's been making film off of YouTube for a while. But he's an independent filmmaker from Texas. Man, that took a long time. It's in his channel title. He's really interesting. He's a Chicano, and he's got a whole lot. He's been interviewing people that he knows, and he's just started. I think he's only like 12 episodes in. So like,
Nice.
but they're lengthy episodes. So I'm just like taking my time. It's very interesting to like. I mean, I think life in different parts of the country is different by nature.
Mm-hmm.
So like, Midwest life and California life. Like I stayed in California for like a week, and I know California life is different. Like just from that week, I'm just like, this is not how things work over there. Like
I can't live like this.
And then so having like a slice of Texas life, specifically like Texas skater life, it's been very interesting. Yeah, he's him and his friends have all been skaters, and now they're all getting into like different things coming out of college and stuff. So yeah, no. Why do you ask specifically about?
It was a weird tangent, but me and Jordan, for some reason, got asked to shoot. So Marc Maron, who does the WTF podcast, was doing an episode on Jerry Lewis.
Oh wow!
And we were friends with the guy who directed him in this last movie. And he's like, "Can you guys film it for me? And we'll maybe put it on the DVD." So we got to film this interview with one of his last interviews, I think, Jerry Lewis and Marc Maron. It was supposed to be an hour-long interview, and halfway through, Jerry Lewis was just like, "I'm done." And Marc Maron was like, what? We hadn't, just freaking out because we hadn't even gotten to anything good yet. But on his podcast, he had to put like a disclaimer at the beginning, like explaining, like, I don't know what happened. He just like left halfway through. So take a note from that.
He just left?
He's just like, he was 90, whatever. And just, he's been like, not pampered his whole life, but like he's a celebrity. He knows he's a celebrity. He does whatever the heck he wants. And so he was just like, I'm not doing this anymore. Thanks.
That's fair, I guess. I mean, like, yeah. Once you're at that point, I was looking at just the roles taken and the general behavior over the last few years of Nicholson and Morgan Freeman, and as of around the time of The Bucket List, which I thought was like a really good movie, but for the most part, like there wasn't a lot of acting in it. Like they were just kind of hanging out. They're just like old dudes hanging
out. Let's just do a bunch of stuff.
Right, and that's kind of what it's felt like ever since. They're like, we're like rich old dudes. Let's do a heist movie. Why not? So like 4 rich old dudes did a heist movie, and I was just like. Yeah, no, this is like people who have the pull to like call somebody at a studio and be like, yeah, me, Robert De Niro, and Morgan Freeman, we all want to do a heist movie. Make it happen.
Like, okay.
And they're like, shit, all right, we're gonna make money.
Yeah, they know they'll make their money off. They're like, whatever you want.
No, right?
It doesn't have to be good.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be good. It just has to feature the 4 of you in it.
Yeah,
so I think it's interesting to like that's weird. So he just walked away. That's a very So then, what do you do? You're just like, all right, well, pack up the gear, let's go.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
So I have all the footage, and they never asked for it, and it's just like, all right, it's cool.
Well, right, because like, what is this? You're like, show him walking away.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think they were going to end the episode, but when he died, I think that's when Marc Maron finally released it. Like at least the audio part of it.
Gotcha.
That was interesting. Interesting.
Jerry Lewis.
Yeah, he was interesting.
Did you know that Vern Troyer just died?
Yeah, I heard about that. That sucks.
That's weird. That's like a weird. Yeah. Somebody said that, and I was like, "What?"
That was weird. What? A lot of people. I mean, the lady in our Art and Nature documentary just passed away, also. I think. So.
Yeah, and you said that was like before it's done, but wasn't it like some of the last stuff you guys filmed was like difficult to use because of her speech was slurred and stuff?
Yeah, and it was like a thing where we wanted to like. Because she was going through dialysis, we wanted to kind of like trying to find a tasteful way to show what she was going through and like, the struggles of her life. But then it became like she went downhill so fast that it was like, you can't do this in a way that doesn't seem exploitive anymore. So we kind of just had to back away. And then she became kind of like unresponsive entirely. And it wasn't even possible to interview her after our first 2 interviews. So we just kind of had to work around it. Hope the story made sense still.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's like an interesting hurdle. Like, have you had? I mean, that's terrible for obviously for her and for her family, but like as far as filmmaking, that's an interesting hurdle to have to jump. Have you had other similar? I don't say similar. Hopefully not. You know, nobody else has died, but you know, you lose the footage or you missed an interview, like forgot to hit record something.
I've definitely done that many times. But on our Fallujah documentary, one of the soldiers, he was like such an open book that there were certain stories that we wouldn't necessarily want to get onto the public just because he probably wouldn't want people to know certain things about what happened over there, that kind of stuff. I mean, you don't want to keep the truth from the world, but there's like certain things where you're like, well, I don't think maybe he knew what he was letting all that out there, and you want to stay on the guy's good side so you can get a good story from him.
Right.
But I've definitely like. I think somehow on Squirrel, our feature film, we didn't lose any footage. I think a card went corrupted, but the footage was all fine. We might have lost one file.
I like that you said somehow, like it's something you expect.
When
it is your first feature, so that's fair. That is
and I was the I was the DP, but I was also the DIT. So after all the shoots, I would just dump the footage and be like, I hope that's everything. I hope we're not, There's just so much stuff going on that like I thought maybe I'd forget to dump a card one time, and
so you shot the whole thing in 4K.
Yeah.
I was having this conversation yesterday. Why 4K? Why not? Why not 1080? Just for, and I just mean for practicality of like editing.
That would be great. Yeah, I agree. Because that became a problem in editing too. Certain streaming services, I think, only accept 4K now, like Netflix and all those kind of things. So even if, I think you could probably like upscale it and they wouldn't know, but yeah, so that just became a little bit, and you can say we shot in 4K and that becomes more interesting to distributors because 4K, I've heard of that. So it's just
true.
It's another selling point.
It's a buzzword.
And then also when you downscale it to 1080p, it ends up looking way sharper and nicer than having just shot natively in 1080p. Unless you have a camera that shoots 4K and then it's already downscaling it and it'll still look good. But I also shot it in, I think it was like 400 megabits, which is like super high bit rate 4K. So it's just like the amount of hard drive space that we went through for this film was crazy. And then I had to go through and...
That was going to be my next question. How big, if you were to add up all the files, how large is this project?
I think it's 10,000 files-ish. I have the drive right here.
Files.
10,000 files, and
I've got to edit like a 20-minute short little mockumentary, and I've got a ton of files, and I thought that was a lot. 10,000 files is like incomprehensible to me.
It's 4-point-something terabytes.
That's a whole hard drive for just one thing.
It was 3 of those like small 2 terabyte drives, and then we had 2 of each of them so that we'd have a backup. And then I have like a big editing G drive that I put it on.
Right.
And then also, so it's 10,000 files, and then I have to make 1080p proxies that I can edit with for every single file.
Because your computer can only handle so much.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Need to build you a 4K rendering beast.
I'm trying. Once this is done, it's going to happen because I can't do it yet because I'm using this for music. So like all the plugins and stuff are on this computer. It'd be a pain to have to redo everything. So once the music is done for Squirrel, new computer time.
I won't lie. I'm super duper jealous of your Microsoft Surface that's behind you.
How do you even see that? Oh, is it just laying right here?
Yeah. Super jealous.
Here's your previous model. I think this is a 4, whatever. I love it.
I'm so jealous. I want one of those so bad. I like them a lot. I had the original, like non full edition of Windows version.
Yeah, that's great. That's what's so great about it. It just has. I have Premiere on there. I have Photoshop, like CS5 or something, but it's just Windows. So anything you can put on there.
Right.
Anything you can put on any computer.
What I was actually going to say is you should totally let us help you with that build. We do custom builds on T2G.
You should talk to Jordan because I think he also wants to upgrade his computer.
Dude, heck yeah.
So we're thinking about the old upgrading.
Build out some Ryzen for you.
Oh man, I don't even know what that means.
Well, that's what did you say, DTIP? I don't even know
Digital Terry in process.
what does that that I still don't know what that means.
What's a DTIP?
Didn't you? No. Didn't you just say that? You said not DP, but you were a D. Didn't you say
Oh, DIT.
DIT? What's a DIT?
That's the guy on set who is in charge of, is it digital intermediary trans? I don't know what it stands for. The guy who takes the cards and puts them on a hard drive, runs all the software to make sure every single bit is completely copied, and then he also will do things like applying temporary LUTs to stuff, and maybe even doing a little like assembly editing on set so you can see what stuff looks like.
Oh wow! I didn't even. That. See, like I didn't even know that was a thing that existed. So you just
I mean it's pretty new. Yeah.
You just do like on-set editing just to see like if it looked good, so like in case it needs a reshoot.
Yeah, exactly. And you'll copy the cards over, and they have like software that makes sure that the card copy is completely like exact, because sometimes I don't know, stuff can get corrupt. Like one bit gets off and you lose something, and then some of them will have LUTs that they apply to make sure that, and then the DP will come over and look at it to make sure that the color looks right and the whatever stereoscope thing.
That's crazy. It's a really. How many people behind the scenes were involved on this latest flick?
Squirrel or
Squirrel?
Yeah, Squirrel. Let's see. Geez, I don't know, 10 or 20-ish. I mean, everybody had like 30 jobs, and then there's so many actors, a lot of actors in that. They didn't have 30 jobs. But yeah, it was madness. I didn't sleep at all, and days off were just like spent shot listing. And
right. So Jordan has really sold HCT as like the budget friendly and budget minded production company. I cannot wait to hear what the budget for this is, because I've already seen. I've had a sneak peek of the trailer. I liked it. It's very interesting. I'm curious. Like, let's just say I'm at the very least curious.
I'm not legally allowed to say until it's sold.
No, that's fine. I'm just saying, like,
how dare you try to get that out of me?
I'm not suggesting you should say that. No, sir.
Am I under oath?
No, it's. I'm just really interested to hear, because it, like I said, I've seen the trailer, and it looks very cool. There's a lot going on. Like you said, there's a ton of actors. But I just know, like, some of the other stuff you guys have given me, like, numbers for, I'm just like, that doesn't make sense. Like, in my head, don't know how that works.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how you do that with that little money.
Yeah, I mean, Rain we did for, like, I don't even know what, $3,000 or something like that. That one was crazy.
And that's, I mean, like, majority of that is materials, right? Because did you...
Yeah, and it's just because we don't get paid, and I spent, like, 10 months doing post-production on that thing, so...
Right. You don't have you don't have another editor coming in. You don't have
Yeah, so much, like, I'm sure you can tell that, like, so much of that movie is green screened that it's like insane. But at least it's not like it's just your green screening and all the little props into the background and stuff. So it's right. It still counts.
I mean, it does, but like at the end of the day, you get the shot and you get it. It looks good. I think, like I said, I think it's a really, really interesting film. I think it's great to watch. I also really, really, really enjoyed I Hate Mondays.
Oh yeah.
I watched it one time, and then I went to show it to someone, and I had billed it as a comedy thing, and I was like, I don't know, it was like they did this comedy short, and I started playing it, and I was like, oh yeah, no, it's not, it's funny, like, wouldn't call it comedy, but it's funny.
That was one of those things where originally me and Jordan and two other guys were in a comedy sketch group or something. We'd all come up with different sketches to do. So that's a sketch that I wrote for them, and they were like, this is not the type of stuff that we do. I was like, oh, okay. But then like a year later, we came across some folks that wanted to help get that done, which was nice. And what was I going to say about it? Oh, I just love the idea of like movies where you see where it starts out and you see where it ends, and you're like, how did we get from there to here? And they're like, along the way it makes sense, but
right,
you're just like, I don't like, this is such a journey, from like
And
what does that start? Like a
it
guy
also
going to
started in a really, really interesting way. It kind of started like you expect it to go a certain way. And you're like in your head, you're like, all right, I see. Like, okay, workplace foibles. I get it. And then it's not.
and then you're like, oh yeah, you're like, oh, then it's this other thing. Oh no, it's this thing. Oh no, it's that thing. Yeah,
Right.
it's like four or five different
Right.
twists.
Right. And that's and
But they all, I mean, I think it all makes sense. Like it all like
oh no,
within
yeah.
its own balance.
100%. My like I just like I want more out of the world. Like give me some of the stories from beforehand. Give me some more stories after the fact. What happens to him at the end?
Squirrel is similar in that, not as like extreme, but it definitely has that. Oh, it's this movie. Oh no, it's this movie. Oh, it's that movie. Sort of a thing going on. So
That's good,
fun.
and that's good. And like I like, especially if something that's like really well thought out like this. I really like having those turns where it's not just like you're watching and you're like, all right, well this is gonna happen. All right, then this like because it was genuinely can't think of what the movie was. So like maybe that tells you. Oh no, it was I always call it fish sex, but it's the shape of water.
Shape of Water.
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
So longest telegraph on the planet, right? To just be like, oh yeah, you have these really weird, interesting birthmarks on your neck on both sides that really look like gills, and I was like, oh okay, I see where this is going.
Yeah. Oh, that one I totally. Yeah. Actually, I don't know if I saw that coming somehow. Did I see it coming?
I was just like, okay, cool. What I didn't see was that her neighbor was gay. My wife was like, no, he was totally gay. He was always gay. I was like, I didn't see that. But like,
I feel like, oh, go ahead.
But I was like, for me, it was very much like, oh, gills. Okay, she was abandoned as a baby, like raised, doesn't speak, like
Loves the water.
Loves. I mean, I'm just saying, there's some signs.
I remember Wreck-It Ralph. I thought was really good at like constructing the plot in a way where you feel like you get what it's going for. You're like, it shows you a certain thing. I wish I could remember specifics, but like, you're like, okay, it's showing me that because that means this is going to happen. Okay, cool. Then you get there and that happens. You're like, yeah, I knew it. But then like that also meant something else. And you're like, oh, that's a twist. I felt safe because I knew what that meant, but it meant something else too. And it's like, so you like get thrown off.
That's absolutely the best kind of film to me because I like having that. In a lot of ways, we'll be, and to those listening and watching, we'll be putting out our Black Panther review very shortly. My cousin, in his wisdom, decided to film in 4K. And
nice.
It is some stupid amount. It's like a 36 gigabyte file.
Beautiful.
So I just have been putting it off because I don't want to deal with that file.
So spend 20 days uploading it.
So no, we're gonna export in 1080. I'm not.
No, I guess that's okay. You should export it in like 480p just to spite him.
It's a podcast. Like, how many people are just watching us talk? Really, mostly to this because we also broadcasted live on Caffeine, so we were looking this way for the most of it, not to the camera over there. So, no, it's Black Panther was also, I think, to that point, like predictable in some senses. Like, have you seen Black Panther?
Yeah.
Like, oh, he died. No, he doesn't die. Come on, like, he clearly didn't. Come on, like, there's still 35 minutes left in the movie. He's the title character, most likely not dead.
Well, I really liked the movie Coco. Did you ever see that? Did you see that thing? The Disney movie?
I have not seen that. I've heard it brings out all the feels.
Yeah, I won't spoil it, but it's like within the first 10 minutes, you know exactly what's going to happen throughout the rest of the movie. And then like, you know how it's going to end. And you're like, okay, you're going to do this thing. It's going to pull on my heartstrings. That's great. And then you do it. And you're like, okay, it still works. And you'll still cry. It just, even though you know what's coming, but it's just so well done that you like, it doesn't matter if you see it coming or not.
That's funny that you mentioned that. I was just watching, I don't know if you watch Honest Trailers.
Nah, sometimes. I've seen a few.
He just recently did an Honest trailer for Finding Dory.
And
like the whole time he's being like super cynical about like, oh, it's a cash grab. It's like, oh, like essentially the same plot points, like moment to moment, beat by beat. And then he gets to the end where like she finds family, and she finds out that she was truly loved Damn you, Pixar! You did it again.
Man, I don't know. Like, yeah, I love when Pixar throws out like the dark stuff. Like, I mean, have you seen Inside Out?
I have not.
There's just a character in there that's so stupid, and you're like this, and like it's like the comic relief dumb character, but just like the turn that it takes, and like how serious it gets. You're like, how did that character become so serious, and like it becomes so sad, and just like you've seen Wall-E at least, right?
Yeah, I've seen Wall-E.
Okay.
Like I've seen Up. Wall-E's super dark. Wall-E, like
I mean,
thought as far as like commentary, I was like, oh, kids are gonna love this. I'm like, parents will hopefully think a lot after this one. Like,
I guess yeah. What I was gonna say about Wall-E is that like one thing I always tell people, and like the thing that freaked me out is like he's literally like every day walking by a graveyard of his family. There's like dead Wallies all around him.
Yep.
He has to walk through that to go to work, and he has to like take the shoes off of his dead family members to like to be his shoes.
right.
And like if you think about it, and like he's just trying to be so upbeat. It's just so freaking dark. It's like it's crazy that they can get away with
super
it.
sad. It's
I love it.
depressing. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
that's
a
my
whole
favorite.
lot. I thought it was interesting. Like, and now in retrospect, now that I think we talked about this during Holy Shit History, they've got that bacteria now that eats plastics. I'm like, so like the mountains in Wall-E are just gonna be metal. I don't know because like metals are found naturally on Earth, so like they're like nothing's likely to evolve to eat metal. So like all the plastics will get eaten off, and it'll just be metal.
Metal mountains.
Really just mountains of metal, and I was like, man, I feel like now it's even a little darker.
There you go.
Now only like
and
super
then like
old toys.
in Toy Story 3, there's that moment where they all think they're gonna die, and so they just hold hands and like embrace the fact they're all gonna die for a second. Like, damn, like you couldn't do that kind of stuff when I was a kid.
No. I see. Here, actually, I'm gonna take that back. I think that's not true. I think there has been a lot of stuff from, because you're what? You're
97.
You're 29.
Nice. I'm much older than that. That's great.
35.
2 more years.
Oh, I'm 34. I have to turn 35 this year.
Okay, I'm 37. Yeah, it's fine. Everybody knows.
So like we are then of the same era. I was just like wondering because
Yeah.
like to give me a gauge of like what you would have watched. You likely watched the same things. If you watch Gargoyles, the TV show,
Okay.
that is the darkest, richest show ever.
So this is my OP1 keyboard that I used to make beats all the time. I just want to show up this.
I'm jealous.
Gargoyles was my favorite show when I was a kid. That's the first show I've ever saw that had like season arcs. Like, that is what a cool thing.
I loved that series. I mean, like that show was about betrayal, trust, racism. Like, oh my god, it was such a deep.
And you're also learning about like Shakespeare and like.
Right. I was like Macbeth. I'm like, I've heard of that, and then like I would look. So like when it came up in school, I'd be like, listen more, like way more intently. And oh, such a good show. But like I watched it like probably 3-4 years ago, and I was like, man, this show is fucking dark. There's just there's so many underlying things, and like culturally it was incredible because you touched on all these different cultures.
No, that's right. Yeah. Elisa Mazo was half Native American, I think.
Right, and they did a lot of like when they did the season, the like ridiculous like the Goliath journeys or whatever they called it in season 2.
Oh yeah.
It was like a 45 episode season because they didn't want to end it because that was
him and his daughter on the little boat thing.
Yeah, because that's when they Disney, and this was like a thing I learned later. Disney at that time like decided, apparently for the industry, that 3 seasons was like that's the cap for TV shows. So that's why like the last season of Gargoyles was called The Goliath Chronicles because it was a different show. It was
different animators too, I think, because the quality suddenly got bad.
It was different animators, and the like storyline got weird. It got like way more like hardcore racism themed because they had like a gargoyle elimination squad like trying to go around and kill them during the day. Super dark. I was like, huh, this took a turn. Like everyone knows about gargoyles, but like that somehow turns into like essentially police state. Like, it's dark. It's a real harsh 90-degree turn there. But I think like stuff like that. You look at things like the X-Men.
I guess you're
series,
right.
like
X-Men. They killed off Morph in the first couple
They
episodes.
killed
That
off
was a
Morph
big
in the
deal.
first couple episodes, so that turned into like, you know, like
Think
your
he came
mistakes
back.
coming back to haunt you because Morph kept coming back.
Yeah,
Then you also had like the mutant liberate or the what was it called? What were they called?
I don't remember.
Oh my goodness, the ones who were no more mutants and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't know. It's
Wow,
been too
well,
long.
whatever. Like, yeah, it was like this hate group that, like, honestly, in the comics, like, I've read all the stuff from the '90s. Essentially, like, I'm fairly confident in saying that I have read 90% of the comics that came out in the '90s that were X-Men,
Nice.
and they were like this big a part of that. Like, not even like they were mentioned. That was about it. It was like they were some guys. They like made a little bit of a ruckus here and there, but they were nowhere near. But like on the X-Men TV shows, like every other episode is very much like no more mutants, no more like hateful. Graydon Creed's trying to like ban mutants and all this stuff, and I'm just like, damn. Like back then, it's like cool, whatever, X-Men powers, whatever. But then like you go back and look at it, you're like, man, you learned a lot from these shows. Like
Hmm.
there's
Yes, that's true.
there's a lot to it. It's just I feel like nowadays, while at the same time, yeah, you could. I think now they're doing it on a bigger scale, like with the Pixar movies. I think cartoons are getting more subversive with education. Like you learn things. They like actively pack more education in cartoons, but also
Mm.
while making it super like dumbed down on the surface. So like you're watching Dora the Explorer. It's like if you look at it, it's a dumb show, but like you're learning Spanish. There's just no way around that. You're just doing it.
Interesting.
And there was another one. I forget what it was called, but there was one where it was like essentially same premise with a little Japanese girl, and like they would use Japanese terminology, and like you would learn Japanese terminology and like culture through this like really bright like poppy animated show. And I was like, this is for like 3, 4, 5 year olds. And I'm just like, man, this is terrible, but I see what you're doing. So like I think they moved all the dark stuff to movies. Like
Yeah,
the
there you go.
parents are bringing you. You're not being sent out on you're not going into the wild on your own and like learning about hate and hate groups without parental supervision.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, I guess it was still pretty dark and weird back then.
It's just it gets very interesting. I think I'm having an interesting time like figuring theme. Like theme is kind of the thing I'm trying to like really get my head around as far as um, storytelling, not even just filmmaking, but storytelling. I had somebody very honestly and brutally tell me that my sales pitch for our comic book was terrible, and I was like, okay, like that's that hurts a little bit, but go ahead, like let me hear it. And he's like, listen, you gotta like, what's the theme? What's the story about?
Oh yeah.
And I was like, and I like had given him like plot details, points, like features, but not what the story was about. And I was like, all right, I see where you're going. All right, I'm gonna work on that. like I see,
Interesting.
because at the end of the day, I think you'd be like, oh, Rain is about a society that like cherishes water.
Yeah. It also came out at a great time because it's kind of you're like, oh, I guess you could think of this as like a Trump character. That's fun. Like there's all kinds of
Yeah,
guy who wants everything.
that was man, such a good movie.
It's fun when like not necessarily Rain, but like other things you write, and then you're thinking about what the theme is after the fact, or like just kind of like looking it over after the fact. You're like finding all these things out about yourself. Like, oh, this is me. I didn't realize that I was writing this character as me, and that's like just like so many things are reflections of yourself that maybe you didn't even think about until it was done.
How,
Exercising demons.
so in that vein, have you ever written something that you're like, all right, this is what I would do in this situation, like actively kind of written yourself as one of the characters?
Hmm. I always I tend to write stuff that's like so out of the realm of what actual human beings do that like it's never a situation that I would ever be in. But I still feel like I will have like conversations in my head, and generally everybody does what I would do in the movies, and that's where the problems come because everybody's just me, and so it's weird. I can't think of, but I've never like lived out a dream in a script and been like, oh, somebody was mean to me in real life, I'm going to write a script where I can tell them to shut their mouths. But that's just me. I like to do the weirds.
What is the likelihood you're gonna write like a regular old workplace comedy?
Funny that you say that. No, the next script I want to write.
He's like that. I was like, I just finished one.
I am starting not a workplace exactly, but it's a sort of a drama about people and jobs and killing intruders and stuff. So it's kind of in there, but it's it's twisted in a way that's not.
But see, like, yeah, you're like this killing intruders and like this. You like took it off the rails real quick.
Yeah, well, it's like one of the main themes of it is one of the guys, intruder breaks into this guy's house. And this isn't the main plot. This is a whole side thing. And then the guy ends up killing the intruder. Everybody thinks he's a hero, but he can't like handle his job anymore, and he's like freaking out. Everyone thinks he's great, but he's not dealing with it very well because he knows that like it wasn't a split-second reaction and he shot the guy because he was invading his house. Like there was a moment where he could have chosen not to kill the guy. Like he could have shot him in the foot, he could have shot him in the head, but even in that split second, he chose like to kill this guy. And whether or not like it was the best decision or not, like to him, he openly chose to murder a man in his house. And so like everybody's like grateful that he saved his life and like cheering him as a hero, but to him, he's like, I'm a murderer. Like I killed this guy, and like so it's just like a weird, real upbeat.
You know what, Mr. Glass? I can't sympathize with this character. I would feel no such compunction. It's my house.
Luckily, he's not the main character. He's just a side thing.
No, that's really cool, and that's I think that's a really interesting thing to explore because I think that's another thing that's time relative, culturally relevant.
Yeah,
it's like I'm a gun owner, and it's one of those things that like I'm of two minds about the subject, very very adamantly. Like I really feel kind of strongly on both ends, and
I think that's good. That makes you a human being, which is nice. You're not just like no, my way.
Right, and I'm not just like, oh man, and that's I know that some people would attribute this to me being a Libra, but I'm always willing to hear out an opposing point of view, and I will actively play devil's advocate if I'm hearing something and I'm just like, yeah, but like what about that person's perspective? Somebody's telling me something like, oh, this is what happened, blah blah blah, and I'm just like, yeah, but like what if this is what they were thinking?
Mm-hmm.
Like this is my friend telling me a story about their bad day. And I'm like, yeah, but what if that guy was saying this? Like, what if this is what he meant? Like,
yeah, I do that sometimes too. And I'm like, I better not say anything or they're going to get mad at me too.
Right. Then they're going to go talk to somebody else about me. Now I'm the
jerk. Yeah, Matt just said this. I try to tell him about my feelings, and he comes over here and tells me.
No, that's an interesting. Man, that's deep. That's deep.
But then on top of that is like all kinds of weirdness. Like I feel like I want. Well, I don't want to say anything. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, it'll have the quirkiness that everything else kind of has, I think.
So I mean,
because I never want anything to take place in like the real world. So there's always going to be some element that's like.
Okay, so yeah, that was my question. Then you don't think you have no interest in writing something that's like just like regular everyday kind of human drama.
Nah, that's what life's for. You don't want to go to the theater to see that stuff. It's so much easier. You make a movie about like. I'm just going to say something terrible, but you make a movie about some guy dealing with drug addiction and he dies, and it's like, oh, that sucks. But if you make a movie about, like, this is a terrible example, but like a guy in the future who has to use, necromancer, a guy who has to like, go into the Matrix every now and then, and he like gets off on this kind of stuff, and and he dies in the end. It's the same exact story, but it's so much more palatable because you don't have to see it through like the horrors of everyday life. You can hide it. Like I love hiding like the real sad true stuff in stories. I think that's what where is it? Go this way. That's what Guillermo del Toro is good at usually. Like this story about fish people. My favorite part about that movie is about Shape of Water. Oh, this is a poster for Devil's Backbone, one of Guillermo del Toro's earlier movies. It's one of my favorites.
I have heard of it.
there's like a ghost in it, but it's like the ghost is not what the movie's about at all. But like Shape of Water is like all about like racism and whatever. And there's like this awesome point in the movie that nobody ever talks about where they turn on the TV and it's like the riots and people are getting sprayed down with hoses and they're like, I don't want to watch that. No, we don't want to watch that. We want to watch this, and it shows like a dancing thing. And you're like, that's what this movie is. It's like nobody wants to watch the story about the interracial couple that can't get together. Let's make a movie about a fish and a woman. It's the exact same story, but like it's in a way that those people could watch it.
Right.
And it's like it's such a cool thing. And like same with this, it's like there's a ghost or like Pan's Labyrinth, and like it's just all.
I still don't know what Pan's Labyrinth was about.
Yeah, actually, Devil's Backbone's better than Pan's Labyrinth.
I saw it and I was like, okay, like I understand what happened, but like I missed most of it.
Yeah,
I
think
get it.
like the step-by-step metaphor of doing the three things and the Pale Man, like I like that movie a lot, but I feel like this does it a lot more subtly, or it's more subtle, and it doesn't stray so far into the like supernatural part of it that like it doesn't make sense anymore. It works a lot better, I think, in this movie. Devil's Backbone, check it out.
I will have to. Matt Glass recommends The Devil's Backbone, ladies and gentlemen.
See it now. Anyway, yeah, so I feel like that's my favorite trick about movies and TV is like making unbelievable things change your life in ways that like regular things couldn't have, or like mean more to you than just like a true story could have. I always talk about, I'm just rambling, but Doctor Who, I always enjoy when like just the fact that it's like some crazy stupid British guy in a box like traveling around being stupid, but then there's an episode that will like blow your mind by being either like super serious or super dark or like getting too emotionally. You're like, how do they do that? Like, how did this stupid character become this thing that like that means so much? I mean, not every episode does that. Sometimes they're not that great, but sometimes they're amazing.
That's where you get the balance out of it. You get the balance where it's like, this is a show, this is some dumb show. I mean, my example, and the only reason I'm using this as an example is because you guys know Karen Gillan, and I was just watching like a super cut of the last episode, like the last scenes of the last episode of Selfie, and I don't know if you've seen the show.
Yeah, I did. Well, I really liked it. I thought she was great.
I really liked it. I thought it was a really, really like poignant way of dealing with the subject, and it was one of those things like it looks like just such a dumb show. Like the subject matter is so dumb, but then like when you actually watch it and you actually like, there's so much to it. There's so much more to it.
And I don't think people knew. It's like it has that like a little bit surreal comediness to it that sometimes Scrubs would have a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't think people knew, but I think that they just saw the title and they were just like, ugh, I don't want to watch this.
Yep.
I totally think it was the title that killed that show.
I agree. I think it was, and it's funny because I think it wasn't even relevant like further into the season. Like it really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was like the first 2 or 3 episodes, and
like it ends in such a powerful way. Like the last like 5 words or 4 words or whatever it is, I was just like, he said, "Next time I'll be ready," and I was like, that's dope. That's such a dope. And like it's man, it's such a good commentary for like two different like very divergent like paths of life, and like both like what's right with them and what's wrong with them from both angles. And it's just it was such a good show. I get so salty when they cancel stuff that's really good.
That's always a pain.
I don't know if you ever watched like Flash Forward, really good show. Where everyone in the world passed out for 2 minutes and 40 seconds.
I feel like I might have watched the first season, and now I can't remember it at all.
There is only the one season.
Okay, is it like 6 episodes, or is it a full?
It was a full thing. The reason that it was canceled is that no one watched the second half because it came out the year the writer's strike happened. So like the writer's strike happened and they stopped everything. Everything got stopped, and it was like you had the break then, and then they came back and they put the shows back on, and I even forgot that it came back out. So it was like to the point that like that's the thing, like I like the show. So I was like, man, did that ever finish? And then in the last episode, they set up this whole universe, like everyone has a flash forward again, but it's for like years. And
I think I do remember.
And I'm just like, you bastards!
Did you ever watch? Just lost my thing. Did you ever watch The Leftovers?
No. I feel like
That's
I've heard of it, though.
it's a real depressing one. It's like 2% of the population just disappears one day,
Huh.
and just like everybody dealing with it. Like the first season is hit or miss. Every other episode is really good, but then
Okay.
after that, it gets so good. Like it's just
Interesting.
like it's so dark, but also like hilarious and like beautiful like world building and in the final like
2%. 7
it's really good.
billion,
It's,
7,
you
8,
know,
8 billion people. 2%. I feel like that's not a big loss.
yeah, no, it's the thing. It's like it's not that great. But then there's certain people like one lady. Some people have like their cousin is gone, but then one lady, her husband and her 2 kids disappeared. Like just statistically, it happened or whatever. And so like her entire life is completely turned upside down. Some people it doesn't affect at all. Like and it's just like an interesting, very strange show.
That's messed up. You wake up, your whole family's
Yeah.
gone.
They never like fully address what happened and like religious cults pop up saying that like why it happened and apparently and then there's like season 2 is like there's a town in Texas where nobody disappeared and so like everybody's flocking to this town and it becomes like this place where like people are going to try to get healed and there's like government have built a fence around it so people can't enter unless they're like permit. It's really interesting,
Huh. It does
but it
sound
also
interesting.
like this is a side plot. I won't spoil anything, but then like on the news it's like the entire cast of Perfect Strangers got taken up. Were part of the 2%. They disappeared. And you're like, oh, that's a funny side note. Then later on, it's like, actually, the guy who played Cousin Larry on Perfect Strangers didn't disappear. Like, that's okay. Then later on, he shows up in the show as the actor who played Cousin Larry on Perfect Strangers. I don't remember watch that show. Me.
You're talking about like,
Balky.
yeah.
Yeah.
Come on.
So like apparently the whole cast disappeared and then like no, the Balky's cousin didn't disappear. And then like the actor's like, I played Balky's cousin on the show and then like and the music for for the episode about that becomes the Perfect Strangers theme song but played like really beautiful quiet piano. It's just such a weird they do anything. It's such a weird show. Anyway,
That sounds
great.
very interesting. I like that. I don't know. I like weird kind of offbeat stuff. So
And I like you can tell from the stuff like you're talking about, like stuff that becomes the thing that you never would have expected it to become. It's like
right.
my favorite stuff, just to be completely thrown off guard, but not like in a it's about this quick twist. It's like it makes sense, even though it's insane. Just like me.
So on as far as subject matter, you guys have stuck to mostly, and I'll get to mostly in a minute. You guys have stuck mostly to like normal mortal human things. I would even go so far as to say Rain is still kind of, it's like really far out there, but like it's still kind of a mortal thing. Ghost of the Ozarks. By the way, hashtag Netflix pick this shit up. Ghost of the Ozarks is super interesting to me. I really, really like it. I'm already like sold on the universe. I'm so psyched. I like Western type stories. And I wouldn't really like categorize this fully as like a Western, but it's just like it feels more in
it kind of has that feel.
It feels like that Western expansion era. Feels like like early to mid 1800s kind of thing. I'm interested. Are you actively avoiding sci-fi, or are you interested in going into sci-fi? And if you are, are you what's kind of like your direction? Is it robots? Is it AI? Like, what's more on your mind? Because I know you're gonna get weird with it.
Jordan and Tara are super into AI stuff, but I'm fine with it. I don't know what I would do. Okay, so I've been trying to read at least one novel from every great sci-fi writer. So right now I'm reading Neuromancer.
That's bold.
But I've read from like I can't even think of them. His name's Arthur C. Clarke and all the guys. Ray Bradbury.
Heinlein.
I don't know who else there is. Who?
Heinlein. Robert Heinlein. Come on, sir.
What did he do?
Well, the one that you might know of off the top of your head is Starship Troopers.
Oh, he did not. What is it?
The Number of the Beast.
Keep going.
Which, by the way, you should. All the ones I'm telling you are the ones I've read and the ones that you should read. The Number of the Beast is outstanding. It's so interesting.
What I was gonna do
And then
is
there's
I was gonna.
the Valley of Shadow of Death, or Valley of the Shadow of
Yeah,
Death.
is that what I was gonna read? I can't remember. I had one specifically that I was planning on reading, but now I can't remember. Bibliography, because I remember looking at his name very recently.
I think it's called Shadow of Death or Valley of the Shadow of Death, something like that.
Stranger in a Strange Land is what I was gonna read of his.
I think that's on my
Yeah.
shelf. I borrowed a stack of books from a friend. Valley of the Shadow of Death and Number of the Beast, very, very interesting.
Nice.
Very interesting. Both have very interesting takes on sexuality.
Mm.
That's really all I can say without like. That's really all anyone should say about those about those books.
Nice. I'm gonna read, speaking of sexuality in books, The Left Hand of Darkness.
I don't know that one.
It's about, I think it's like supposed to be one of the best. It was written by a woman. I've never really read a sci-fi book by a woman. I think she's supposed to be one of the best. It's like this guy goes to a planet where there's no people, like creatures get to choose their gender. I don't really know exactly what it's about, but it's supposed to be one of the best science. It won like the Hugo and the whatever the other thing is. So that's on my list too.
Best sci-fi short story, I think, in my opinion. Granted, I will admit I haven't read a lot, but I've read several. Sound of Thunder. I think
Is that Ray Bradbury?
I think it's Bradbury. Yeah, there's a.
Is that the walking on the paths and the dinosaurs killing them does stuff, right?
It's not. It's not time travel. They go back. It's like a. It's.
But aren't there little, like there's little, they have to walk on floating paths so they don't disturb the grass?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's time travel. Sightseeing. It's time travel sightseeing.
Yeah. Ray Bradbury. I mean, one of my favorite short stories he wrote, which I can't remember the name of, is like two astronauts in space. I don't remember what happened at the beginning, but
I
they're
love
just
that one.
going
That was
apart
really
from
good.
each other. It's just that.
That was really good. There's a lot of. I bought or had a graphic novel years ago. I think I got it from the library.
The Illustrated Man?
No, it's all these like short stories that he did. It's like it's a Sound of Thunder and like other stories. I think it's literally what it's called, and other stories.
Nice.
And I think it's like 6 or 7 of his like just short stories in graphic novel format, and they were just so brilliant. It was so, and they had different artists for each one that like really
Nice.
fit. It was so good.
Yeah, he's great. I like Lovecraft stuff a lot. I don't know if that's considered sci-fi, kind of.
Does he delve into like the steampunk kind of stuff? I know like very much fantasy, obviously Cthulhu.
He's pre any of that stuff, so it's just this other weird thing. A lot of it's about. Sometimes it's about aliens, but it's usually just like unexplained creatures that we just don't know about yet, sort of a thing. But
Call of Cthulhu. I read a
it's the weirdest stuff. Freaks me out.
That era in writing is very interesting to me. I read a book. I forget the name of it right now, but it's kind of like the history of fantasy writing, and it's this like really, really interesting look at how all these writers kind of evolved and how they evolved their styles. And like, I know now we look at authors and like they put out whole novels, and like back then it was very much like essentially articles in a digest, and that's why everyone made such lengthy descriptive books, because they got paid by the word. So like,
and also like what you were saying about the articles thing is like H.P. Lovecraft would write it as though it were somebody telling a story that they heard. So there'd be like, and my friend told me that he saw this thing that was the worst thing he'd ever seen, and if I told you right now, it'll be it's always written like a guy telling you, or like having written the story, having heard it. And so it has like this weird like.
That's really cool.
It's just kind of like a fun, like it feels like a true story just because of the fact that you're not in there, so you're hearing somebody else tell the story from another person. It makes it seem like a folklore or like a story from the past, which is always really creepy.
Sure. So.
Oh yeah.
No. Sure. I was gonna say is, if you don't have anything that you're actively kind of thinking about what you might do, I don't know. I think I'm interested because I think, like I said, I know you're gonna take a weird twist on it, so I'm interested to see. I think I mentioned these books to you because we were talking about space travel last week. I think again on Holy Shit History, which by the way, viewers, listeners, Holy Shit History on caffeine.tv/HCT Media every Sunday at 7 p.m. Pacific time.
Tune in.
check it out. Um, it's called Pirates of Exodus, and it is this future world where I actually know the author. I like through a client of mine. He was friends with him because they're both authors, and like that's how I ended up. Like they ended up showing at a convention together, and I was like, he pitched the story to me, and I was like, yeah, I'll buy it right now. Like done.
Nice.
And it's basically future world. We found another Earth. Like we've fucked up Earth, and we're like, we're just gonna go to this other Earth. And I want to say it's like a smidge bigger. And it had this very interesting setup in that there was a ship that had left, and in the time that because it's so the other Earth is so far, in the time that it took to get there, better technology had been built, and they had sent the next ship, and it passed them. So by the time they got to the end of the journey to the new Earth, like their parts essentially were like useless and out of date. And it was just this like ferry service. They were just like going to get people and bringing them forward. And it it was kind of like selective survivalism because it was just kind of taking some people with us. Like it didn't seem like it was everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like they get like 3 days, they refit it, put new engines on it, and they're like, we're going to send it back. And then you just got to do that, turn back around. It's just this like ferry service. So it's just very interesting to like, and like as they're in mid transit, like new technologies are built. So like there's new engines so like by the time they get back, the world has gotten to a point where it's done. All the people have left. And there's just like what they end up calling the dregs of Exodus, the leftovers. Oddly enough. And like they go down, they're like, oh, like we gotta take the next group, and it's like there's no next group. There's no like infrastructure. Like everyone that was there, that was handling the transfer of people wasn't there. There was no there's no manning the station. There's nothing. So like they go down and like to Cape Canaveral where like this the like launch pad was to leave, and they end up having to deal with this like local government set up by this like warlord kind of dude.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just very interesting to see that. So I think
yeah, that's cool.
The reason I bring that up is because he just did a very interesting book. All I know is the pitch. Like he shared a thing on his Facebook page, and it's a YouTuber puts out like so it's like like the dangers of social media. He puts out a video like outing a politician or something, and then he's on the run because he's ended up like leaking information that like wasn't supposed to be leaked. And it's just like the background of it is technology, and the core of it is still kind of like a thriller. And I think it's interesting like to kind of like sprinkle the technology aspect into it. So like I don't know, I think it'd be an interesting give him a call, see what's up.
I like it. A long time ago, I wrote this short story. I guess it was a short story, novelette called 5 Digits and a Car, and it was a sci-fi noir movie about a guy. Well, it starts off with a guy like playing poker with this guy with no arms, and whoever wins gets to get his car back. But it like that's how it starts, and then it like goes back in time and explains. But it's like this weird story about the guy who's like, the world's going to end in a certain number of hours and he has to get to his car for some reason, which I can't even remember. Anyway, I wrote it. I had so much fun writing it. I was so proud of how it turned out and how it was going that I have never read it since. I never wanted to like spoil how it might suck or it might like need tons of work. Yeah, sure. Like I said, there might be a lot of mistakes in it and stuff, but it's just like I loved it so much making it that I was like, I don't want to ruin that by like reading it and then like doubting myself because I'm a really pessimistic person. So I wanted to just like be like, I'm just going to keep this as the thing that I was happy with and not let. But I should go back and read it now. It's been like 14 years, I think.
Oh wow!
But
so you say you're a pessimistic person. Like, how do you, on a day-to-day kind of thing, like how do you deal with that? How do you not let being like you're self-aware enough that you understand that you're a pessimistic person. First of all, I think that's a major key. how do you get around that to like not let you essentially bring you down and be like, oh, I'm not gonna make this movie because whatever.
I mean, it does, but it's like I tend to like the stuff that I make usually. And I'm never like 100% happy with it. I think like my pessimism makes me have more of like a focus. I can focus more on my work and see where the issues really are because I'm not like such a like. There's certain types of people who I like people I knew growing up who like are so optimistic and like think they're so great that they can't see the mistakes that they've made. They can't
Right.
see things that could be fixed because like this is great. I made this awesome thing. This is so great. And for me, it's like I made this thing. I like this, but clearly there's all these problems.
Sure.
I hate myself. I'm gonna fix this. And so I mean, it ends up for me work. I know it's just my thing and it's not healthy, but for me, it ends up pushing me to like better myself, better the things I make. Because being like, if I can make something better than this, I can make it better. Maybe one day it'll be a place where I make something. I'm like, this is great. I made a great thing. It's over. But like, it is my motivation to some degree at this point, which is not a healthy kind of motivation to have for a person. But so I'm trying to like switch it up and not be that person. But anyway,
Hey,
and there's part of me. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
There's a thing where like there's certain songs I make or even videos I make where I'm like, I really love this. This is great. I did a really great job. But then a part of me is like, you can't think that. People that think that are the ones that don't see their mistakes. What are you doing? I'm like, oh, I don't. So there's like a war going on inside my head all the time.
Sounds tiring.
It is. That's why I'm up until 4 a.m. and I wake up at noon.
Fair. That's at least again you're identifying that you're dealing with it. It's not maybe necessarily the healthiest way to deal with it, but you're dealing with it. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big element of people are going to look at their stuff. I think any creator, any artist is their own worst critic. You look at your own stuff and you're like, man, it could do this better. It could do this better. It's not exactly what's up here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a big element of it needs to be like done, not perfect. Like a lot of people say that. I don't know who the first one was, but like I think complete but not perfect is because I think perfect is not ever gonna happen. Like you're never gonna do something where you're just like 100% like good.
When I was working on Rain, I wrote because the green screen's such a pain in the ass, and the green screen's not all that great, but you can't really notice. But I wrote a sticky note on my computer that says "Embrace the imperfections," and I would just have that like I stare at that every day, like just like you should be not just be like okay with it. If there's a mistake and you can't fix the mistake, like shine light on the mistake and like own up to it, and then it becomes like, oh, they must have done that on purpose, or like mistake must be a part of the aesthetic of the piece, and you can own up to your downgoings, misgivings.
I like it. That's a good. I think that's a good place to end it.
Awesome, we did it, folks.
We did it, folks.
Just if you don't hear the first part of this, just imagine that it was awesome.
Imagine it was awesome. Well, you can't say that. You already said that it was boring.
Oh, just imagine that it was boring. Cool.
Of course, for those listening and watching in the future, make sure you have checked out all the links in the description. It's on the screen, but also we have direct links in the description.
Oh.
Of course, glassbrain.com for Matt's individual stuff. By the way, I've been like low key like going back through your Instagram posts. I love watching you create music. It's incredible.
Thanks.
That's incredible.
I appreciate that.
Check out HCT Media. Squirrel coming to a screen near you soon. I'm still waiting to get my money back. There are no squirrels in the trailer.
Wait till you see the movie. There are so many not squirrels in the trailer.
I'm psyched. I'm psyched. Yeah, I would like. I just want a tweet of a thumbs up. Like if you can't like say it, I just want a tweet personally of a thumbs up. Like once it's sold and ready and like.
Oh yeah, totally.
I just want to know that it's like coming to a screen. I know like, there's negotiations and all those other things that are happening. That's fine, whatever. I just want to know that it's happening. Because at the end of the day, If no one buys it, you put it on YouTube, you sell it for $5-6 per rental or whatever. I don't know how much rentals are. You do it on your own.
Yeah, if all else fails, I think we'll be able to sell it to somebody. We'll see.
And I'm just gonna go back to the questions. More questions. What is the benefit of selling it versus doing it yourself?
Promotion, I think. Like if you sell it to Netflix, or if you sell it to a company who can sell it to Netflix, your audience just becomes much bigger, or wherever they sell it. If you sell it to a company who will put it in screens, they can promote it in ways that have connections that we don't necessarily have. Also, if you get a distribution company involved, they have hopefully like international connections, so you can get it in Germany and all the other countries across the world.
Right. Makes perfect sense.
Specifically Germany.
We really want to penetrate the German market.
Squirrel is just right for German viewers.
Awesome. Well, thank you for answering that one last question and all the other questions, and going down all the various tangents with me. It was a blast. That's kind of.
We should have talked more in depth about gargoyles, but it's fine. Who was your favorite gargoyle?
Oh, you can't ask a question like that.
It's easy for me, but that's fine.
I always gravitate towards Goliath. I do.
All right, that's fine. It's cool, I guess.
Who was your favorite gargoyle?
Brooklyn was, but Jeff Bennett was like my favorite voiceover artist at the time. That's a whole other nerdy conversation.
Brooklyn was really cool. I won't lie.
I think he was like the angsty teen, so it made sense.
Yeah.
And like
he was definitely I really like Hudson too. Hudson is like.
Oh yeah,
but I also like grew up without a dad, so like Hudson was the dad figure. He was like, I'm gonna take care of the boys.
Nice.
It was awesome. I want like a remake. I want another 5 seasons of that show.
I know they should. All those people are still around.
Reboot Gargoyles, damn it! They never put out the last season on DVD.
Oh, is that true? I illegally downloaded it a long time ago. The whole first 3 seasons or whatever.
They finally ended up putting out the second half of the first season. I don't even think the second season is out on DVD. It's weird. It's weird because I think they ended up in kind of the same thing the same issue they had with Hulk. You'll never see another Hulk movie because Disney's real particular about who they let touch their stuff, and Universal, I guess in perpetuity, owns the distribution rights for Incredible Hulk. So you'll never see a Hulk movie out by itself.
Poor Mark Ruffalo.
I feel like Hulk movies can only go so far.
That's true. And just throw them in other people's movies like in Thor. That worked pretty well.
It was great.
Yeah.
I loved it. Best moment ever. By the way, and I think I told you this before, though, that moment where he says, yes, I know him from work, the I know him from work line is an ad-lib from a kid who was there because of the Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Oh, yeah. I think I heard that. That's awesome.
And I was like, that's the coolest.
Better have gotten paid.
I was like, that's the coolest fact about that movie.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Beyond all the other things, that's the coolest thing about that movie. Like,
especially since it's a great line.
Right, and I think he ended up seeing it first because I think he was terminal, so like he had been on set, so they like got him. I want to say like an early cut. I don't even think it was done, but like he got to see it. That was cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
What a somber fucking note to bring it to at the end here.
There we go.
Thanks, Matt Glass, for joining us for being part of this sideshow here that we do.
Happy to be here.
Much appreciated. For those listening, watching in the future, thank you for watching. Make sure you guys check out mattglass.com, httmedia.com. Check out the
glassbrain.com.
Damn it, I keep messing up. Glassbrain.
Every year, March 27th, mattglass.com
goes up.
It should be either rid up, and the other Matt Glass just keeps buying it someday.
Freaking Matt Glass.
Yeah, can't trust him.
We'll get you one day.
Can't trust those Matt Glasses.
Make sure you guys check out the main channel where we do all our tech reviews and films. And there was supposed to be a film this Saturday, but life happens and kind of gets in the way.
What are you gonna do?
You know, that's why they're called arbitrary deadlines. There's no one in control of me and my creative process besides me. So, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Sweet. Bye, everybody. We did it.
We did it.